The first warning was my name disappearing from the golden chair beside my wife. The second was Cashin Vane sitting in it. By the time I noticed the third, 500 people were already watching. Lucian, Princess Seraphina Aurelia stood beneath the crystal dome of the Hall of Ascension, dressed in white and gold, the colors reserved for direct heirs of the imperial bloodline. My wife of 5 years looked beautiful. She always did when she was about to destroy something. Her silver blonde hair was pinned beneath a narrow diamond circlet. A ceremonial sword hung at her waist. Behind her, 12 banners representing the royal provinces descended from the vaulted ceiling. And directly beside her stood Cashin, her first love, the man who had returned to the capital 4 months ago after 8 years abroad. The man whose name had somehow entered every conversation between my wife and me since the day he came back. Seraphina extended one hand toward the circular platform in the center of the hall. "Please step forward." I didn't move. The nobles surrounding the platform began whispering. I could hear them clearly. I had always heard too much, seen too much, known too much. That was the gift of sovereign insight. Or at least, that was what everyone called it. A gift. "Your Highness," I said quietly. "What exactly is this ceremony?" A flicker of annoyance crossed Seraphina's face. "You received the formal notice. I received an invitation to the appointment of a new strategic commander." Cashin lowered his eyes modestly. The performance was excellent. He had always been good at appearing reluctant whenever Seraphina handed him something that belonged to me. My Western Command residence. My seat on the Imperial Strategy Council. 3 estates that had once funded my intelligence network. And now, apparently, my position. None of those had surprised me. This did, because carved into the stone platform beneath Cashin's boots was a symbol I had not seen in 7 years. 7 circles. 7 intersecting blades. A crown broken down the middle. My pulse stopped for half a second, then resumed. Slowly, very slowly. "Seraphina." She heard the change in my voice. Her shoulders stiffened. I pointed toward the platform. "Why is the transference seal active?" The hall became silent. Not quiet. Silent. The kind of silence that comes when hundreds of people realize they are about to witness something they will gossip about for the rest of their lives. Seraphina glanced at Cashin. He gave her a gentle, encouraging smile. That smile answered my question before she did. "You've carried sovereign insight for 7 years." She said. "Yes. It has placed enormous pressure on you." I almost laughed. So she had noticed. After all these years. She continued. "Cashin has demonstrated extraordinary strategic talent since returning to Aurelia. The council believes transferring sovereign insight to him would strengthen the kingdom while allowing you to rest." The council. Several council members suddenly found the floor fascinating. I recognized 6 of them. None met my eyes. Interesting. And which council member proposed this? Seraphina's expression hardened. "That isn't important." It was me. Cashin stepped forward. Of course. He looked at me with what I assumed was meant to resemble guilt. "Lucian, please don't misunderstand." I waited. Cashin sighed. "When I returned, I never intended to compete with you." Behind him, Lord Marrow coughed into his sleeve. Even he apparently found that difficult to believe. Cashin continued anyway. "I only wanted an opportunity to serve the kingdom." With my title. His jaw tightened. I added, "My residence." A few nobles shifted awkwardly. "And now my skill." "Lucian." Seraphina snapped. There it was. That tone. The same tone she had used increasingly often during the last 4 months. Never with Cashin. Only with me. I looked at my wife. "What?" "Stop humiliating him." I stared at her. Then I laughed once. It wasn't intentional. That seemed to make her angrier. "Cashin didn't ask for your residence. I assigned it to him because it is closer to the Strategic Council chambers. The residence my mother left me. You have 6 others." "5. She frowned. "What? You gave another one to Cashin last month." Several people lowered their heads to hide smiles. Cashin's face reddened. Seraphina's expression became cold. "This isn't the place for petty accounting." "No." I agreed. I looked down at the glowing transference seal. "This is apparently the place for theft." The temperature in the hall seemed to drop. Seraphina stepped toward me. "It isn't theft." "No. Sovereign insight awakened 3 months after our marriage." So the royal scholars believe your connection to Aurelia's bloodline may have triggered it." I almost admired the argument. Almost. "So because I married you, you believe my soul belongs to the crown." "That isn't what I said." "It is exactly what you said." Cashin intervened. Lucian, Serafina is trying to protect you. That time I really did laugh. From what? Cashin opened his mouth. Nothing came out. I looked back at Serafina. Tell me something. Her eyes narrowed. Do you understand what you're giving him? The question changed something in her face. For one brief second, uncertainty appeared. Then Cashin touched her arm. It was barely a touch. 2 fingers against her sleeve. But I saw the effect immediately. Her hesitation disappeared. I understand perfectly. No, she didn't. Not even remotely. I had spent 7 years ensuring that she never would. That was my mistake. Serafina lifted her chin. You've stood above every strategist in this kingdom for years. Lucian, every victory becomes yours. Every successful campaign carries your name. Every noble compares their children to you. And that bothers you. It isolates you. Interesting. Cashin deserves one chance. There it was. Not the kingdom. Not my health. Cashin. He deserved it. I looked at the man beside my wife. Cashin lowered his head. I never wanted to take anything from you. Then step off the platform. His head came up. Excuse me. Step off. Silence. If you don't want it, leave. Cashin looked at Serafina. That was all I needed to see. I smiled. You want it? His expression changed. Only slightly. But sovereign insight had trained me to notice changes measured in heartbeats. Ambition, fear, greed. All 3 passed through his eyes. Then disappeared. I want to serve Aurelia. Of course. Serafina stepped between us. Enough. I looked at her. For years, that single word from her could stop me. Because I loved her. Because I had spent 5 years convincing myself that every compromise was simply another form of loyalty. The Northern Campaign. I gave her the credit. The grain reform. Her signature went on my plan. The treaty with Valeria. Foreign ambassadors toasted her diplomatic brilliance while I sat 3 chairs away. The Blackridge Barrier. I spent 19 consecutive nights rebuilding its strategic architecture. She presented the finished design. I never complained. I thought marriage meant we were building the same future. Apparently, I had simply been building hers. Stand on the platform. Serafina ordered. I looked at her for a long moment. Then I did. Gasps rippled through the hall. Cashin stepped onto the opposite side. The 7 circles beneath us ignited. Pain shot through my chest. I nearly smiled. Not yet. Don't react yet. A royal priest raised the covenant blade. Lord Lucian Vale. He announced. Bearer of sovereign insight. Do you acknowledge the transfer? That was the important part. The covenant could not be surrendered voluntarily. But it could be taken if another person initiated the rite with royal authority and the bearer did not resist. 7 years. 7 damn years. I had searched monasteries, ancient libraries, forbidden archives. I had paid scholars in 3 kingdoms. Every answer had been the same. The bearer cannot release the covenant by desire. Only severance through another claimant can break the chain. I had never imagined my wife would become that claimant's sponsor. Perhaps the gods had a sense of humor after all. Lucian. Serafina sounded impatient. I looked at her. Yes. The priest lowered the blade. Do you resist? Cashin watched me carefully. Serafina did too. I could have stopped everything with one word. Instead I said no. The seal exploded with light. Pain ripped through my skull. I dropped to one knee. Someone gasped. Serafina took one instinctive step toward me. Cashin caught her wrist. Don't interrupt the rite. She stopped. Of course she did. The pain became unbearable. 7 years of memories tore through me. Battlefields. Maps. Thousands of voices. Millions of calculations. Every flaw. Every weakness. Every possible betrayal. That was what sovereign insight truly was. Not knowledge. Compulsion. The moment I entered a room, I knew where everyone would run if fire broke out. When Serafina kissed me, I knew the exact change in her pulse. When ministers lied, I saw 17 ways to expose them. When I slept, I dreamed in maps. When I woke, I tasted blood. The skill never stopped. Never. Then, something snapped. The golden mark on my wrist vanished. Across from me, Cashin screamed. Light poured into his body. A crown-shaped sigil burned onto his hand. The crowd erupted. He has it. Sovereign insight. Lord Cashin succeeded. Cashin stared at his hands. Then he began laughing. Quietly at first, then with growing wonder. I can see it. Serafina hurried toward him. What? Everything. His eyes moved rapidly across the hall. The southern arch has a structural weakness. Lord Marrow's left knee is injured. The western formation around the palace has a blind point between towers 4 and 5. Excited whispers spread through the nobles. Cashin turned towards Serafina. It worked. She smiled. Not the polite royal smile. A genuine smile. The kind she had once given me. It worked. I remained on one knee. No one looked at me. Good. Because my hands were shaking. Not from pain. From the absence of it. The pressure behind my eyes was gone. The endless calculations had stopped. For the first time in 7 years. I looked at the Hall of Ascension and saw. A hall. Not 23 escape routes. Not 11 assassination opportunities. Not 4 structural weaknesses. Just a room. Beautiful. Ordinary. Quiet. Gods. Quiet. I began laughing. Serafina turned. Her smile disappeared. Lucian. I couldn't stop. 7 years. 7 years trapped inside a mind that never slept. And she had freed me. My wife had actually freed me. What's funny? Cashin demanded. I looked at him. The golden mark on his hand was growing brighter. Poor bastard. He had no idea. Nothing. I stood. My legs felt strangely light. Serafina studied me. You aren't angry. No. Her brow furrowed. You've lost sovereign insight. I noticed. You understand Cashin is now the kingdom's legendary strategist. Cashin straightened. I looked at him. Then at her. All the best to him. Something about my answer disturbed her. Lucian. Yes. Stop pretending. Pretending what? That this doesn't hurt. I smiled. That was when it happened. Serafina's face went white. She stared at me. Her lips parted. I frowned. What? She didn't answer. Because for reasons neither of us understood. My wife had just heard the thought I had not spoken aloud. Finally, her fingers tightened around the edge of her dress. After 7 years. She took one step backward. I watched confusion become disbelief. And then fear. I'm free. Lucian. She whispered. I tilted my head. What is it? She stared at my mouth. I hadn't moved it. She knew that. And suddenly, the woman who had just given my legendary power to her first love looked far less certain of her victory. I slept for 11 hours that night. 11. When I opened my eyes, sunlight was pouring through the curtains. For several seconds, I didn't understand what was wrong. Then I realized. Nothing hurt. No headache. No metallic taste. No invisible map unfolding behind my eyelids. Nothing. I laughed into my pillow. A knock sounded at the door. Come in. My steward, Rowan, entered. He stopped when he saw me. My lord. What? You're smiling. Am I? I haven't seen you smile before breakfast in 3 years. Then prepare breakfast. He blinked. Breakfast. All of it. All. Eggs. Bread. Sausage. Those ridiculous honey cakes you keep telling me not to eat. Rowan stared at me, then slowly smiled. Yes, my lord. He turned toward the door. Rowan. Yes. Bring me my travel ledger too. His smile vanished. Travel ledger. Yes. Where are we going? I looked toward the eastern window. Beyond the capital walls lay roads I had designed but never traveled for pleasure. Cities I had saved but never visited without soldiers. A life I had postponed for 7 years. I'm not sure yet. And that was the most beautiful answer I had given in a very long time. Serafina did not sleep. I learned that the next morning because she entered my study without knocking. I was eating my 3rd honey cake. She stopped in the doorway. Her gaze moved from me to the plate. You're eating sweets. I looked down. So it appears. You hate honey cakes. No. Sovereign Insight hated sugar before noon. Apparently. I have no objection. Her face tightened. That answer disturbed her more than it should have. Did you sleep? 11 hours. You never sleep more than 4. I know. I took another bite. Excellent. I had forgotten food could simply taste good without my mind automatically calculating ingredient origin, poisoning probability, market cost, and nutritional efficiency. Serafina remained by the door. She was still wearing yesterday's ceremonial earrings. She really hadn't slept. Interesting. What do you want? I asked. Her expression sharpened. This is my residence too. Technically. No. What? This manor belonged to my mother. That's not what I meant. I know. She crossed the room. Yesterday. I waited. You said something. I said many things. After the ceremony. Oh. So she really had heard it. I leaned back. What did I say? Serafina studied me as though trying to catch a lie. You tell me. No. Lucian. You came into my study at breakfast to ask me what I said yesterday. I heard your voice. Then presumably you know. Your lips weren't moving. There it was. I set down my cup. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then I asked, "What did you hear?" Her hesitation answered enough. Finally, she said, "You said you were free." I smiled. Her eyes narrowed. "There. You're doing it again." "Doing what?" Smiling. "I've recently discovered I enjoy it." "This isn't amusing." "To you. Perhaps." She slapped one hand against the desk. "Why were you happy?" I looked at her fingers. 5 years ago, I would have reached for that hand. Not anymore. "You took something from me." I said. "I accepted it." "Isn't that enough?" "No." "Why?" "Because you should be furious." I almost laughed. "You want me furious?" "I want you to react normally." "Would begging have made you more comfortable?" Her face changed. "That isn't fair." "Would you have stopped?" Silence. "Serafina." She looked at me. "If I had fallen to my knees yesterday and begged you not to give sovereign insight to Cashin, would you have stopped the ceremony?" Her eyes shifted away. There was my answer. I nodded. "Then my reaction doesn't matter. I did it for the kingdom. Of course. And for you." That almost offended me. "For me. You were exhausted." "You noticed." She flinched. "Small. But real." "I always noticed." "No. You noticed when my exhaustion inconvenienced you." "That isn't true." "Last winter, after Blackridge, I slept through your birthday banquet. You promised you would attend. I hadn't slept in 4 days. You never told me that." "I did." Her mouth opened. Closed. I remembered the conversation perfectly. She had been standing before a mirror choosing earrings. I had told her the barrier calculations were causing internal bleeding. She had answered, "Then finish them quickly and rest afterward." Perhaps she remembered too. She turned away. "Cashin can carry part of that burden now." "No." She looked back. "He can carry all of it." "What do you mean?" I stood. On the desk beside me were 6 sealed envelopes. I picked up the first. "This is my resignation from the Imperial Strategy Council." Her eyes widened. I placed it down. "The Northern Defense Committee." Second envelope. "The Royal Infrastructure Office." Third. "The Imperial Trade Commission." Fourth. "The Blackridge Oversight Council." Fifth. "And my position as Strategic Commander." Sixth. Serafina stared at them. "What is this?" "Paper. Don't play games with me." "I'm not." "You cannot resign from all 6 positions." I checked. "When?" "This morning." "You've been awake for 2 hours." It's amazing how much faster paperwork becomes when your skull isn't trying to kill you. "Lucian." I pushed the envelopes toward her. "Congratulations. Cashin wanted my responsibilities. Now he has them. He needs time." I paused. There it was. He needs time. He received sovereign insight yesterday, and I received it in the middle of a siege. That was different. "How?" "You had experience." "I was 23. Cashin has been abroad for 8 years." "Exactly." She realized too late what she had said. I smiled. "Give him time." Serafina. She hated that smile. I could see it. Not because sovereign insight told me. Because I had known my wife for 5 years. Perhaps that was the first lesson of freedom. I had spent so long believing the skill explained everything that I had forgotten how much a person could learn simply by paying attention. Serafina grabbed the envelopes. "You're behaving like a child." "No." "You're punishing Cashin." "No." "You're punishing me." That one made me pause. "Do you really think everything I do is about you?" Her face went still. I walked past her. "Where are you going?" "Breakfast." "You already ate." "I've decided to have another one." "Lucian." I stopped at the doorway. She said, "Tonight is Cashin's appointment banquet." I remembered. "Enjoy." "You're attending." "Why?" "Because you're my husband." That word sounded strange now. Husband. I looked down at the wedding ring on my hand. Still there. For the moment. Serafina followed my gaze. Something flickered in her expression. Fear. Perhaps. 7 o'clock. She said. I left without answering. The banquet was worse than expected. Not for me. For everyone trying desperately to determine whether I was humiliated. Cashin sat at Serafina's right. I sat 9 seats away. Traditionally, the princess's spouse sat beside her. Apparently tradition had become flexible. Lord Lucian. Lady Alara Thorne took the empty chair beside me. The Imperial Archivist wore dark blue. Her black hair pinned simply behind her head. Unlike most nobles in the hall, she didn't look at me with pity. She looked curious. "Lady Alara, you look healthier." "I feel healthier." "That concerns me." I glanced at her. Most people would say congratulations. Most people don't spend their lives reading records everyone else forgot. Interesting. Before I could ask what she meant, Cashin stood. The room quieted. "Friends." He began. Yesterday, I received an extraordinary responsibility. Serafina watched him proudly. I know some believe I am unworthy of following a legend like Lord Lucian. Several people glanced toward me. Cashin smiled. They may be right. Very humble. Very polished. Very Cashin. But I believe legends exist to inspire the next generation, not overshadow it. Applause. I drank my wine. Lady Alara whispered. He's been practicing that. Probably in front of a mirror. She almost smiled. Cashin raised one hand. A map appeared above the table. Eastern Fortress. I stopped drinking. Tonight, Cashin announced, I will demonstrate the true potential of sovereign insight. Golden lines spread across the map. The Eastern Fortress has operated at only 63% defensive efficiency for decades. Murmurs. Cashin pointed toward 3 glowing layers. These formations waste enormous magical reserves. By restructuring them, we can increase efficiency by 31%. I stared at the map. Without sovereign insight, it took me perhaps 4 seconds longer than usual to understand what he intended. Then my stomach tightened. Don't. Cashin heard me. The room fell quiet. He smiled. Lord Lucian, don't use the 3rd layer. His smile became thinner. Why? Because it isn't inefficient. The analysis says it is. The analysis is wrong. A few people gasped. Cashin's eyes flashed. You're saying sovereign insight is wrong. No. I'm saying you don't understand what it's showing you. Serafina stood. Lucian. I looked at her. Not tonight. I nearly smiled. Tell him not to touch the 3rd layer. Cashin laughed. I understand your concern. No, you don't. You spent 7 years as the only person capable of interpreting these systems. It must be difficult watching someone else do it. There were sympathetic murmurs. For him. Not me. Beautiful. Cashin. I said quietly. The 3rd layer isn't part of the fortress defense. His expression changed. What? It regulates pressure from the first 2. He glanced at the floating diagram. Sovereign insight was feeding him information. I could tell from the golden flicker in his pupils. It identifies the layer as redundant. No, it identifies its defensive contribution as redundant. That's the same thing. No. Serafina stepped closer to him. Cashin has spent the entire day studying the fortress. I looked at her. I designed it. Silence. Her jaw tightened. Cashin lifted his hand. Activate restructuring. A royal engineer hesitated. Commander, do it. I sighed. The golden map shifted. The 3rd layer disappeared. For 3 seconds. Nothing happened. Cashin smiled. Then every magical lamp in the banquet hall went red. A bell sounded. Once. Twice. Then continuously. The doors burst open. An engineer rushed inside. Your Highness, Serafina stood. What happened? The Eastern Fortress formations are collapsing. The hall exploded into noise. Cashin went pale. That isn't possible. Layer 2 is overheating. Layer 1 is drawing reserve power from the entire eastern grid. Cashin stared at the map. Golden information flooded his eyes. He began breathing faster. No. No, the numbers said. I stood. Serafina looked at me immediately. Lucian. I already knew what she wanted. Old habits. Fix it. The room became silent again. I looked at her. Then at Cashin. Then back at her. Why? Disbelief crossed her face. Because the fortress is collapsing. Your strategic commander is standing beside you. Cashin clenched his fists. I can repair it. Then repair it. He turned toward the map. Lines multiplied. Dozens. Hundreds. His breathing became ragged. I recognized the look. Sovereign insight wasn't helping him. It was drowning him. Cashin. Serafina touched his shoulder. He flinched violently. Don't touch me. The entire hall froze. Cashin stared at her. Then immediately softened. Serafina. I'm sorry. There are too many variables. I almost pitied him. Almost. Serafina turned toward me again. Lucian. Please. Please. That was new. I walked toward the map. Cashin moved aside. I studied it. No golden visions. No automatic solutions. Just memory. Experience. 7 years of understanding systems rather than merely seeing them. Reconnect the 3rd layer. I said. The engineer swallowed. It won't synchronize. Don't synchronize it. Everyone stared. Reverse the flow through the western conduit. Hold it at 12% for 20 seconds. Then reconnect. Cashin frowned. That violates the standard formation sequence. Yes. It could overload the conduit. Yes. Then why? Because the conduit was built from black iron, not silverstone. The engineer's eyes widened. Black iron can absorb the excess. Exactly. Orders flew. 20 seconds later, the alarm stopped. The red lamps returned to gold. Silence filled the banquet hall. The engineer stared at the report in his hands. Eastern Fortress stable. No one applauded. Somehow, that was worse for Cashin. Every eye in the hall moved from him to me. I returned to my seat. Cashin's face had turned gray. Serafina was staring at me. Not with gratitude. With confusion. How did you know? I picked up my wine. I built it. No. She stepped closer. You don't have sovereign insight anymore. Correct. You shouldn't have been able to analyze that so quickly. I looked at her. Something clicked behind her eyes. A terrible possibility. Perhaps the first crack in everything she believed. Cashin had sovereign insight. Yet when the kingdom needed an answer, everyone had still turned to me. Serafina whispered. Then what exactly did the skill do? I smiled. That's a very good question. We returned home shortly after midnight. Serafina followed me into my study. 6 days. I stopped. What? Her face was pale. You said 6 days. I stared at her. She had heard that too. Interesting. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. She moved in front of me. Yesterday you thought you were free. Tonight, during dinner, I heard you again. I said nothing. Her voice dropped. You thought. 6 days. I only need 6 more days. I held her gaze. What happens in 6 days? Lucian, for the first time in years. I could have lied to her without sovereign insight calculating 17 possible consequences. I found the simplicity refreshing. Nothing you need to worry about. She grabbed my wrist. Don't walk away from me. My eyes dropped to her hand. Once, I would have interpreted that touch as love. Now I wasn't certain what it meant. Fear of losing me. Fear of losing control. Fear that the husband she thought she understood had become a stranger. Perhaps all three. Serafina. What? Let go. Her fingers slowly opened. I walked toward the door. Behind me. She said, You're planning something. I stopped. Yes. What? I looked over my shoulder. For one brief moment, I considered telling her. About the covenant. About the pain. About the 7 years I had spent searching for freedom. About the documents already waiting in 6 different provincial capitals. About the final agreement that would become valid in 6 days. But she had made her choice. So I simply smiled. Good night, Your Highness. I left. Serafina remained alone in my study. 3 hours later, she stood beneath the Imperial Archives. She had not told Cashin where she was going. The underground chamber smelled of old parchment and cold stone. Lady Alara Thorne waited beside a locked iron door. Your Highness, you know about sovereign insight. Alara didn't deny it. I know what the archives say. I want everything. That may not be wise. I didn't ask whether it was wise. Alara studied her for several seconds, then unlocked the door. They descended another staircase. At the bottom was a room Serafina had never seen. Only 4 books rested inside. 4, each chained to a stone pedestal. Alara approached the first. For confirmed bearers, she said. Serafina frowned. In how many years? 812. She opened the first record. General Marcellus Dane. Bearer for 9 years. How did he die? Alara looked at her. His heart stopped at 36. Second book. Scholar Queen Althea. Bearer for 11 years. Death. 39. Third. Lord Theron Vale. Serafina froze. Vale. Lucian's ancestor. The room suddenly felt colder. How old? 34. Serafina stared at the final book. It was newer. No name on the cover. Only 7 circles. 7 blades. A broken crown. The same symbol from the transference seal. What is sovereign insight? She whispered. Alara didn't answer immediately. Instead, she opened the book. The first page contained a single sentence. Serafina read it. Then read it again. Her hands began trembling. The bearer cannot relinquish the 7-fold covenant by choice. Below it was another line. Only willing severance by another claimant may release the bound soul. Serafina stopped breathing. Yesterday, Lucian kneeling on the platform. The light leaving his body. His laughter. His smile. And that impossible thought. Finally, after 7 years. I'm free. No, she whispered. Alara watched her silently. Serafina turned the page. There was a medical diagram. Dark veins spreading from the eyes toward the heart. She recognized them. Lucian sometimes had faint gray lines beneath his eyes after using sovereign insight for too long. She had seen them dozens of times. She had never asked what they were. What happens to the bearer? She asked. Alara's answer was quiet. The Covenant takes payment. For using the skill. For surviving it. Seraphina stepped backward. No. She remembered Lucian collapsing after Blackridge. He had told her he was tired. She had told him to attend her banquet anyway. She remembered his hands trembling after the Northern campaign. She had accused him of drinking too much coffee. She remembered waking one night and finding him sitting beside the window with blood beneath his nose. He had smiled and told her it was nothing. She had believed him because believing him was convenient. No, she repeated. Alara closed the book. Did Lord Lucian never tell you? Seraphina couldn't answer, because suddenly she remembered something far worse. He had. Not everything, but enough. Many times. She simply hadn't listened. Her eyes dropped to the ancient text. If the Covenant was killing him, she struggled to finish. Why didn't he surrender it? Alara placed one finger beside the first sentence. The bearer cannot relinquish the sevenfold covenant by choice. Seraphina stared at the words. Understanding came slowly. Then all at once. Lucian couldn't give it away. He couldn't destroy it. He couldn't abandon it. Someone else had to take it. Someone had to believe they were stealing the greatest treasure in the kingdom. Someone ambitious enough to want his legend. Someone with enough royal authority to authorize the transfer. Her. Seraphina's face drained of color. She hadn't defeated her husband. She hadn't humbled him. She hadn't forced him to share power. She had done the one thing Lucian had been unable to do for 7 years. She had broken his chains, and she had placed them around Cashin's neck. Your Highness. Seraphina barely heard Alara, because another memory had surfaced. 6 days. Lucian only needed 6 more days. Her heart began pounding. If losing sovereign insight was what he wanted, then whatever happened in 6 days had nothing to do with winning it back. He was preparing to leave. Seraphina turned and ran. Behind her, the ancient record remained open beneath the dim archive light. At the bottom of the page, beneath the warning about the Covenant, was one final sentence she had failed to read. Upon severance, all obligations sworn by the bearer under the Covenant shall expire after the 7th sunrise. Seraphina reached home before dawn. Lucian was gone. Not gone from the city. Not yet. But his side of the bedroom was empty. The wardrobe door stood open, and several rows of clothing were missing. His traveling coat was gone. So were the 2 leather cases he used on long journeys. Seraphina stood in the doorway and stared. For 5 years, she had slept in this room with him. She had never thought about how much of it belonged to him until the empty spaces appeared. Where is Lord Lucian? The servant bowed. He left before sunrise. Your Highness. Where? I wasn't told. Who went with him? Only Steward Rowan. Her chest tightened. Did he say when he would return? The servant hesitated. No. Seraphina turned away. 6 days. Now 5. She could still hear the words from the archive. All obligations sworn by the bearer under the Covenant shall expire after the 7th sunrise. She had read the line 3 times after running back downstairs. Then she had demanded an explanation. Lady Alara had been frustratingly careful. What obligations? Any oath tied directly to the sevenfold covenant. Military? Possibly. Political? Possibly. Marriage? Alara had gone silent. That silence had terrified her more than any answer. Now Lucian was already packing. Seraphina told herself he was angry. He was punishing her. He wanted her frightened. That explanation was easier to accept. The alternative was that Lucian truly wanted nothing back. Not his skill. Not his titles. Not even her. A knock sounded. Cashin entered without waiting. Normally that would not have bothered her. Today it did. You look terrible, he said. Seraphina looked at him. Cashin was pale too. Dark shadows had formed beneath his eyes. What happened to you? He smiled quickly. Nothing. His fingers twitched. She noticed. Cashin. I said I'm fine. He walked to the window, then froze. What? He stared across the courtyard. Do you know the western wall has 11 structural fractures? Seraphina frowned. What? And the north tower's support beams are uneven. Cashin. There are 17 possible entry routes into this residence. He turned sharply. His pupils were rimmed with gold. Why did no one correct this? A chill moved down Seraphina's back. Sovereign insight. Cashin smiled. Yes, but the smile looked forced. I can see everything now. Did you sleep? He ignored the question. The fortress incident last night was simply a misunderstanding. 3 formations collapsed. I was adjusting to the skill. Lucian warned you. His face changed. There it was. The first flash of anger. You want to see him? This isn't about Lucian. It is always about Lucian. Cashin laughed bitterly. Every room I enter, people mention his name. Every problem I solve, someone asks whether Lucian would have solved it faster. Serafina remained silent. Cashin moved closer. You gave me this power because you believed in me. I did. Then stop doubting me because of one mistake. One mistake nearly disabled the Eastern Fortress. I fixed the damage. Lucian fixed it. The words came out before she could stop them. Cashin's expression hardened. Serafina immediately regretted it. Not because it was false, because she had never seen him look at her that way before. Cold. Calculating. Then the expression disappeared. He reached for her hand. I'm sorry. She let him take it. For years, she had remembered Cashin as gentle, patient, the boy who had once waited outside the palace gates during a storm simply because she had cried after an argument with her father. But the man holding her hand now felt different. Or perhaps she had simply never looked closely enough. Come with me, he said. Where? The Eastern Command Hall. Why? I want to show you something. An hour later, Cashin stood before a massive map of the kingdom. Dozens of officials waited around him. Serafina watched from the royal gallery. Trade efficiency through the Eastern Road is down 12%. Cashin announced. One minister nodded. The mountain route is slow during winter. Then reroute through Ravenspire. Several people exchanged glances. Minister Halden stepped forward. Commander, Ravenspire belongs to Duke Alaric. So, he does not permit royal trade caravans through his territory. Cashin frowned. Why not? Halden looked toward Serafina. She knew. Lucian had negotiated with Alaric for years. The Duke hated the crown, but he trusted Lucian. Any shipment marked with Lucian Vale's personal seal passed freely. Cashin lifted his hand. Send a royal order. Halden winced. That may worsen relations. It is a royal province. It is an autonomous border province. Cashin's jaw tightened. Sovereign insight shimmered in his eyes. He is financially vulnerable. Halden blinked. What? Duke Alaric's western mines produce less revenue than expected. Pressure him through taxation. Serafina rose. No. Cashin looked up. She descended from the gallery. Don't threaten Alaric. He is obstructing royal trade. He commands 30,000 border troops. And Lucian controlled him. No. That word mattered. Lucian never controlled Alaric. Then why did Alaric cooperate? Because he trusted him. Cashin smiled without humor. Trust is simply another form of leverage. Serafina stared at him. Lucian would never have said that. The comparison appeared in her mind immediately. She hated herself for it. Cashin saw it anyway. You're comparing me to him. No, you are. He stepped closer. I have the same ability he had. That doesn't make you the same person. The room became very quiet. Cashin's face went rigid. Then an aide hurried inside. Commander. What? There has been an incident with the Valtoran convoy. Cashin turned. What incident? The route you approved yesterday crossed the lower Red Gorge. Yes. The convoy was attacked. Serafina's stomach dropped. How much was lost? The aide swallowed. Nearly 40 million crowns. Cashin stared at him. That route was mathematically optimal. Perhaps. Halden said carefully. But the Red Gorge tribes consider it sacred territory. Cashin snapped. That wasn't in the report. Lucian would have known. Again. The thought came instantly. Again. She hated it. Cashin looked around the room. They failed to give me complete information. No one answered. Serafina heard a faint sound. A whisper. Not from the room. Inside her mind. Lucian. Third failure in 2 days. Her heart stopped. She looked around wildly. He wasn't there. Then another thought came. Faster than I expected. Serafina gripped the edge of the table. Lucian was somewhere nearby. Or perhaps the strange connection between them did not require distance. She didn't know which possibility frightened her more. Cashin kept speaking. We'll recover the loss. Serafina barely heard him. Because now she understood something. Lucian was not surprised. He had expected this. That afternoon, Lucian sat in a quiet tea house on the southern edge of the capital. Rowan placed a ledger on the table. 3 provinces confirmed. Only 3. 4 others asked for another day. Lucian nodded. They're cautious. They're terrified. That too. Rowan lowered his voice. Are you truly going through with this? Yes. You built half the royal administration. Lucian sipped his tea. And now they can build something without me. Rowan stared. You don't believe that? No. Then why leave? Lucian looked through the window. Outside, children were chasing each other beneath red autumn leaves. No strategic calculations appeared in his mind. No threat assessment. No probability model. He simply watched them run. Because I stayed too long. Rowan was quiet. After a moment, he said, Lady Alara sent this. He placed a sealed letter on the table. Lucian opened it. Only one sentence. The princess knows the covenant was killing you. Lucian read it twice, then folded the letter. Rowan studied him. Does that change anything? No. You don't want an apology. Lucian almost smiled. I wanted her to notice 7 years ago. That evening, Serafina returned to the archives. Alara was waiting. I need to know something. Ask. Was sovereign insight what made Lucian a strategist? Alara stared at her, then walked to another shelf. She removed a thin red file. This predates the awakening. Serafina opened it. Lucian Vale, age 19. Author of a border logistics reform adopted by 3 provinces. Age 20. Negotiated a ceasefire between 2 rival houses. Age 21. Designed the first version of the Blackridge supply network. Age 22. Defeated General Corvin in a war simulation 18 times in a row. Serafina's hand slowed. Lucian had awakened sovereign insight at 23. These achievements came before it. What does the skill actually do? It reveals weakness. Alara said. That's all. That's enough to destroy most people. Serafina looked up. Alara continued. It shows flaws, risks, branching outcomes, contradictions, but it does not decide what matters. So the bearer still needs judgment. Yes. Experience. Yes. Discipline. Yes. Serafina closed her eyes. Cassian had none of those things at Lucian's level. She had given him the ability to see everything without teaching him how to understand anything. The door opened behind them. An official rushed inside. Your Highness, Serafina turned. What now? The Northbridge barrier has malfunctioned. Her heart sank. How? The new strategic commander approved a recalibration this morning. Cassian. Again. The official hesitated. There is another problem. What? Commander Vane says Lord Lucian must have sabotaged the original design. Serafina went still. Alara's expression became unreadable. Where is Cassian? In the council chamber. Serafina turned toward the stairs. For the first time since Cassian returned to Aurelia, she was not thinking about protecting him. She was thinking about asking him one question. Why was every mistake somehow Lucian's fault? By the 4th morning, Serafina's desk was buried beneath letters. Not requests. Departures. She opened the first. The Northern Merchant Coalition respectfully declines renewal of its exclusive royal distribution agreement. The second. Master Artificer Ilvin requests release from palace service. The third. The Guild of Stonewrights will conclude all crown projects at the end of the month. The fourth. The Grey Lantern Information House no longer recognizes the royal exclusivity clause. Serafina stared at the growing pile. What is happening? Minister Halden stood across from her desk. He looked 20 years older than he had 4 days ago. Many agreements appear to have been personally negotiated by Lord Lucian. I know that. No, Your Highness. Halden took a breath. I don't think we understood how personally. He placed another document in front of her. The Northern Merchant Coalition's contract contains a continuation clause. Serafina read it. The agreement remained valid only while Lucian Vale served as royal strategic guarantor. He had resigned. The contract was therefore ending. She looked at another. Same structure. Another. Again. Not royal guarantees. Lucian's. Why would anyone sign agreements like this? Because at the time, they trusted Lord Lucian more than the crown. Serafina's jaw tightened. That is insulting. Halden said nothing, which was somehow more insulting. The door opened. Cassian strode inside. You called for me. Serafina pushed several letters toward him. Read. He skimmed them. His expression remained calm. Pressure tactics. What? They are attempting to force Lucian back into office. No. Cassian looked up. These guilds depend on royal contracts. Some do. Then let them leave. Halden coughed. Cassian turned. You disagree. The Northern Merchant Coalition controls almost 40% of grain movement across 5 provinces. Cassian waved one hand. Replace them. With whom? Other merchants. Halden stared at him. Commander, if another organization had the same capacity, we would already be using them. Cassian's eyes flashed gold. He looked at the map. Break the routes into smaller contracts. Halden frowned. That would increase cost by perhaps 30%. 27. That's still disastrous. Cassian shrugged. Temporary. Serafina stared at him. Lucian would have anticipated this. The thought appeared again. Damn it. She was beginning to compare every sentence. Cashin saw her expression. I can solve this. How? Give me authority. You already have authority. Not enough. Serafina stiffened. Cashin stepped closer. I need Lucian's remaining administrative powers. He resigned. Then transfer them to me. They aren't royal powers. What? Some of them are personal. Cashin laughed. That makes no sense. Halden quietly placed 12 sealed envelopes on the desk. These arrived this morning. Serafina recognized the wax. Border provinces. Her heart began beating faster. She opened the first. Duke Alaric. Short. Formal. Devastating. My allegiance compact was signed with Lucian Vale, not the Royal Strategy Office. Upon his withdrawal, Ravenspire resumes autonomous strategic command. Second, Lady Marin of Frostmere. Same meaning. Third, fourth, fifth. By the seventh, Serafina stopped opening them. How many? Halden answered softly. 12. Cashin's face had lost its confidence. 12 provinces cannot simply withdraw cooperation. They are not withdrawing from Aurelia. Then what are they doing? Ending Lucian-specific military coordination. Cashin slammed one hand against the table. Same thing. No one disagreed. Serafina looked at the letters. 12 provinces. She had always assumed their extraordinary cooperation reflected respect for the royal family. But every letter named Lucian. Not her. Not the Emperor. Lucian. Where is he? Halden hesitated. We believe he is still in the capital. Find him. Cashin spoke immediately. Why? Serafina looked at him. What do you mean? Why? He wants you to chase him. Stop. This is obvious manipulation. Stop. He resigns. Waits for his friends to create panic. Then expects you to beg. Cashin, silence. He stared at her. Serafina realized she had shouted. I need to speak with my husband. Cashin's face tightened at the word. Husband. She noticed. For the first time, she wondered why it bothered him so much. She found Lucian at his mother's manor. He was in the courtyard directing servants. Crates were stacked beside 2 carriages. Serafina stopped walking. You're actually leaving. Lucian looked up. Yes. That simple answer hurt more than anger would have. When? Soon. Where? Several places. She moved closer. 12 provinces sent letters this morning. I know. How? They sent copies to me first. Of course they had. Serafina's hands clenched. You planned this. I prepared for it. What is the difference? Intent. Don't speak to me in riddles. Lucian dismissed the servants. When they were alone, he said, What do you want? I want to know why half the kingdom seems to believe they answer to you. They don't. 12 provinces just suspended coordinated command. They answer to themselves. Through agreements you negotiated. Yes. You never told me. You never asked. Serafina laughed in disbelief. How was I supposed to ask about something I didn't know existed? You signed most of the final documents. That stopped her. What? Lucian walked into the manor. She followed. He opened a cabinet and removed several old folders. He placed one before her. Her signature. Another. Again. A third. Her royal seal. I presented these agreements to you 5 years ago. Serafina stared. I thought they were routine. I know. You didn't explain. I did. No. You were late for Cashin's memorial service. She froze. Not his funeral. A memorial held every year during his absence because Serafina had once believed he was dead. Lucian remembered. So did she. I told you the border lords would only join under personal guarantor structures. He continued. You signed without reading. Her throat tightened. Lucian opened another file. Western Trade Corridor. Another. Silver River Taxation Treaty. Another. Northern Grain Reserve. Each document carried her signature. Each had been built by him. How much? She whispered. Lucian looked at her. How much of what I thought I built was actually you? He didn't answer. That was answer enough. Her eyes burned. You should have told me. I spent 5 years telling you. You made me look powerful. I thought that was what a husband should do. The sentence struck harder than accusation. Serafina stared at him. And now? Lucian closed the files. Now you have Cashin. Her face hardened. This isn't about him. It became about him the moment you gave him something taken from my soul. He needed a chance. And I needed a wife. Silence. Serafina looked away first. I didn't know the covenant was hurting you. You didn't want to know. That isn't fair. No. Lucian's voice remained calm. What wasn't fair was collapsing after Blackridge and waking to a note telling me you had moved my council seat to Cashin because I missed one meeting. Her mouth opened. He continued. What wasn't fair was spending 7 years carrying a curse so your kingdom remained stable, only to hear you announce that another man deserved the power because I'd stood above everyone long enough. Lucian, he pulled something from his hand. His wedding ring. Serafina stopped breathing. He looked down at it, then placed it on the table. Not thrown. Not dramatic. That made it worse. What are you doing? Making things simpler. No. She reached for the ring. He moved his hand away. Serafina's voice dropped. You are not ending 5 years of marriage because of one ceremony. Lucian looked at her. One ceremony. She realized her mistake immediately. He smiled without warmth. That is exactly why we're here. She suddenly heard his thought. Clear. Cold. 2 more days. Her heart lurched. 2 days until what? Lucian's eyes sharpened. So he now knew she could hear him. Serafina stepped closer. What happens in 2 days? He said nothing. Lucian, go home. This is my home. No. His gaze moved across the manor. This is mine. Serafina felt something inside her crack. He had never separated their lives like that before. Mine. Yours. Not ours. She took the ring from the table. I'm not accepting this. You don't have to. She stared. The covenant expires at the 7th sunrise. Doesn't it? For the first time. Lucian's expression changed. Only slightly. But she saw it. You went to the archives. Yes. Then you know? I know you couldn't give up sovereign insight. Yes. I know I freed you. Yes. The word nearly broke her. Then what else expires? Lucian did not answer. Serafina looked at the ring in her palm. A terrible realization formed. Our marriage oath. Silence. Lucian. His silence confirmed it. Serafina's fingers closed around the ring. You used the 7-fold covenant when we married. It was required to bind my military authority to the crown. So when the covenant expires, the oath tied to it becomes void. Her face went white. No. Lucian looked away. In 2 days. Serafina, you won't need to choose between your husband and your first love anymore. He walked past her. She turned. Because you won't have a husband left. Lucian did not stop. The Blackridge barrier failed at noon. Not completely. Not yet. But the first rupture was enough to send every alarm crystal in the royal capital screaming. Serafina was in council when the western wall turned red. Minister Halden stood so quickly his chair fell backward. Blackridge. Cashin stared at the glowing map. That isn't possible. Serafina's stomach dropped. What did you change? Cashin didn't answer. What did you change? He turned. Only the stabilization sequence. Her blood went cold. Why? Sovereign insight showed excessive power consumption. Lucian designed Blackridge. And Lucian isn't infallible. The entire chamber went silent. Cashin seemed to hear himself. He lowered his voice. I improved it. The map pulsed. One section turned black. Halden whispered. Barrier node 17 is gone. Another. Node 19. Serafina rose. How long until total collapse? A technician answered. Perhaps 90 minutes. Evacuate the settlements. He looked confused. They're already evacuating. What? Orders were issued 3 days ago. By whom? Everyone knew before he answered. Lord Lucian. Serafina closed her eyes. Of course. Cashin laughed sharply. He caused this. She turned. What? He knew the barrier would fail because he sabotaged it. No, you don't know that. I do. Cashin stared at her. Serafina said. Because this is what you always do now. His expression changed. What? Every time you make a mistake. Lucian somehow caused it. That isn't true. Eastern Fortress. Cashin said nothing. Valtorin convoy. Silence. Northbridge. His jaw tightened. And now Blackridge. He stepped toward her. I have sovereign insight. That does not make you Lucian. The words exploded across the chamber. Cashin went still. So did everyone else. Serafina realized she had finally said aloud what the entire court had been thinking. Cashin's golden eyes hardened. Then call him. She did. Lucian arrived 40 minutes later. Not in royal uniform. Not wearing a command insignia. He wore a simple dark coat. That somehow made the room feel different. Every minister stood. Cashin noticed. His face twisted. Lucian walked to the map. How bad? Halden answered immediately. 21 nodes unstable. Settlements. Evacuation at 87%. Lucian nodded. Good. Serafina stepped forward. You ordered it. Yes. 3 days ago. Yes. How did you know? Lucian looked at Cashin. Because he was going to touch Blackridge. Cashin's face darkened. You're claiming you predicted my actions. No. You just said, I predicted your mistake. A few ministers looked down. Cassian stepped forward. Fix it. Then, Lucian glanced at him. No. Seraphina stared. Lucian. He looked at her. Fix the barrier. No. You cannot refuse. I can. People could die. No. Her face changed. Lucian pointed to the map. The vulnerable zones were evacuated. The remaining settlements are protected by secondary barriers I activated yesterday. Halden looked stunned. You activated reserve shields. Yes. Without sovereign insight. Lucian ignored the question. Seraphina stepped closer. Then why won't you fix Blackridge? Because I'm no longer your strategist. This is bigger than us. I agree. Then help. Lucian looked around the chamber. Then at Cassian. You gave him the authority. Cassian's hands clenched. I can do it. Lucian nodded. Then do it. Cassian turned to the map. Gold flooded his eyes. The room waited. 1 minute. 2. 3. Cassian's breathing changed. His fingers began shaking. I need the original foundation matrix. Halden handed it to him. Cassian stared. No. What? This doesn't match the visible weakness. Lucian said quietly. Because you're reading the symptom. Cassian spun. Stop interfering. Lucian shrugged. Fine. Another node died. Seraphina's heart pounded. Cassian. I know. Golden lines spread across his face. For a moment, he looked almost feverish. There are too many connections. Lucian's expression changed. Not surprise. Recognition. He knew exactly what Cassian was experiencing. Seraphina remembered the archive records. The trembling hands. The blood. The sleepless nights. Lucian had lived like this for 7 years. She had never understood. Cassian. She whispered. Step away. No. Step away. I can solve it. You're hurting yourself. His eyes snapped toward her. Now you care. Seraphina froze. Cassian seemed to regret it instantly. But the words remained. Lucian watched silently. Then the doors opened. Enough. Everyone turned. Emperor Aldrich entered. The entire chamber bowed. Lucian did not. Not fully. Just a slight inclination of his head. The Emperor looked at him. You look better. I am. Aldrich nodded once. Then he turned to Cassian. Can you repair Blackridge? Cassian swallowed. Yes. Then why is it still failing? Cassian had no answer. The Emperor looked at Lucian. And you? Yes. Cassian stiffened. Aldrich said. Do it. Lucian shook his head. No. Half the room stopped breathing. Even Seraphina stared. No one refused the Emperor. Aldrich smiled faintly. Still stubborn. Still retired. The Emperor looked at the map. If Blackridge falls, the crown loses 6 months rebuilding it. Probably 8. Can you prevent that? Yes. What do you want? Seraphina's chest tightened. Lucian said. Nothing. Aldrich's brows rose. I don't work for the crown anymore. The Emperor studied him. Then, unexpectedly, laughed. Cassian looked horrified. You find this amusing? Aldrich turned toward him. Yes. Why? Because I warned my daughter this would happen. Seraphina went still. What? Her father looked at her. 5 years ago. She searched her memory. Nothing. Aldrich continued. When you married Lucian, you believed the crown was elevating House Vale. Seraphina swallowed. Wasn't it? No. The room became very quiet. The Emperor walked toward the map. Lucian had already negotiated 3 border alliances before he turned 21. Seraphina remembered the archive. He had already designed the Northern Grain Network. Lucian remained silent. He had defeated every senior strategist in Imperial simulation before sovereign insight awakened. Cassian's face turned pale. Aldrich looked directly at him. The skill did not make Lucian brilliant. Cassian said nothing. It chose him because he already was. The words landed like stones. Seraphina stared at her husband. No. Former husband soon. If the covenant expired tomorrow. Everything she had believed was shifting. She had thought Lucian's legend came from sovereign insight. She had thought removing it would level the field. Give Cassian a chance. Make Lucian less indispensable. Instead, she had handed Cassian a weapon he could barely survive. And Lucian remained Lucian. Aldrich sighed. Fix the barrier. Lucian looked at Seraphina. Not the Emperor. Her. For one foolish second. Hope rose inside her. Then he said, one final time. She understood immediately. Not reconciliation. Not forgiveness. A farewell. Lucian stepped toward the map. He studied it for less than a minute. Shut down nodes 9 through 14. Cassian stared. That will accelerate collapse. Yes. Then why? Because you're trying to save a diseased limb. Lucian pointed. Cut it off. Halden began issuing orders. Redirect reserve power through the mountain spine. A technician looked up. The mountain spine is dormant. Wake it. We haven't used it in 20 years. I know. How do you know it still works? Lucian glanced at him. Because I repaired it 6 years ago. Orders moved faster. For the first time in days. The room felt controlled. Lucian gave 5 more instructions. Then 7. Then stopped. The map shifted. Black sections turned red. Red turned amber. Amber turned gold. One by one, the alarm stopped. Holden stared at the final readings. Stable. Silence. Then someone exhaled. Another minister laughed with relief. The room erupted. But Serafina heard only one thing. Cashin whispering. How? Lucian turned. Cashin's face was gray. How did you do that without the skill? Lucian looked at him for a long moment. Then said, You keep asking sovereign insight what is weak. Cashin stared. Lucian continued. I learned to ask what must survive. No one spoke. That was the difference. Cashin could see flaws. Lucian understood purpose. Cashin possessed power. Lucian possessed judgment. Serafina finally saw it. She had not transferred Lucian's greatness. She had only transferred his burden. Cashin's voice shook. You still have part of it. No. You must. No. You couldn't do that otherwise. Lucian smiled. I designed Blackridge before sovereign insight ever awakened. Cashin went silent. The Emperor turned away as if the matter were settled. Serafina stepped toward Lucian. Wait. He stopped. She wanted to say everything. I'm sorry. I didn't know. I should have known. Don't leave tomorrow. Instead, what came out was, come home. Lucian looked at her. The room quieted. Serafina hated the vulnerability in her own voice. Please. Cashin's face changed. Lucian noticed. So did everyone else. For years, the princess had never begged. Not publicly. Lucian looked down at her hand. She was still wearing their wedding ring. He was not. Tomorrow is the 7th sunrise. He said. Her eyes burned. I know. Then you know why I can't. Because the oath expires. Yes. An oath can be made again. Lucian's expression softened. That hurt more than coldness. Not this one. Serafina's breath caught. Why? He looked at her for a long time. Then his thought reached her. Clearer than ever. Because this time, I finally know what freedom feels like. Her face crumpled. Lucian turned and walked away. No one stopped him. Not the Emperor. Not the ministers. Not Cashin. Not even Serafina. Because for the first time, everyone in the room understood the truth. The crown had not made Lucian powerful. The legendary skill had not made Lucian brilliant. And Serafina had never been the reason the kingdom followed him. She had simply been standing beside the man who held everything together. Tomorrow morning, the last chain binding him to her would disappear. And Serafina had no idea how much of her world would leave with him. Cashin stopped sleeping on the 5th night. By the 6th, he stopped pretending. Serafina found him in the Eastern Strategy Chamber at 3 in the morning, surrounded by 37 open maps and twice as many sheets of calculation paper. Every candle was burning. Every window was closed. The room smelled of wax, ink, and blood. Blood. Serafina stopped in the doorway. Cashin. He did not answer. His back was toward her. He was leaning over a map of Aurelia, one hand pressed against the table, the other moving rapidly across the parchment. 7 weaknesses in the Western grain chain. He marked them. 3 possible rebellions if taxes rise another 4%. Another mark. 9 trade houses vulnerable to financial pressure. More ink. For ministers likely to change allegiance if Lucian establishes an independent court. His hand moved faster. Cashin. 32% probability Duke Alaric has already pledged military support to him. Serafina walked closer. Stop. 51% if Frostmere follows. Cashin. 78 if. She grabbed his shoulder. He spun around so violently that the chair crashed to the floor. Serafina froze. Golden veins ran from beneath Cashin's eyes toward his temples. His pupils were almost completely luminous, and blood trickled from one nostril. For one terrible second, he did not seem to recognize her. Then he blinked. The gold faded slightly. Serafina. Her stomach tightened. You're bleeding. He wiped his nose. His fingers came away red. It's nothing. She stared at the blood. Lucian had said that too. So many times. It's nothing. Just tired. Long day. Too much work. Every excuse suddenly sounded different now. Sit down. I don't have time. You haven't slept. I don't need sleep. That's exactly what Lucian used to say. Cashin's expression changed. The room became colder. Do not compare me to him. I wasn't, you were. He turned away. Every sentence, every decision, every mistake. You look at me and ask yourself what Lucian would have done. Serafina said nothing. Because he was right. Cashin laughed bitterly. Do you think I can't see it? His golden eyes shifted toward her. Sovereign insight shows changes in breathing, pulse, facial tension. A chill moved down her spine. When I mention his name, your heartbeat changes. Cashin, when someone says he may leave Aurelia, you stop breathing for half a second. Stop using the skill on me. He stared at her, then smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. I don't know how. Serafina felt cold all over. What? Cashin looked down at his hands. That's the part no one told me. His voice dropped. It doesn't turn off. The words struck her like a physical blow. Lucian had lived with that for 7 years. Cashin moved around the table. When I look at a wall, I see where it will crack. He pointed toward the stone beside them. When I look at a guard, I know which leg is slower. His eyes moved to the corridor. When ministers speak, I hear the hesitation before they lie. He laughed once. When you touch me, I know whether you're afraid. Serafina's throat tightened. Cashin, you need a healer. No, you need help. I need control. You're hurting yourself. I can master it. You don't know that. Lucian did. The bitterness in his voice was unmistakable. He survived 7 years. Serafina answered quietly. Lucian nearly died several times. Cashin went still. What? She wished she had not said it. But it was too late. The records show the covenant consumes the bearer. His face hardened. You went into the restricted archives. Yes. Why? Because I needed to understand what I gave you. What you gave me. He laughed. You sound as though you regret it. Serafina hesitated. That was enough. Cashin's face changed. Do you? I regret not knowing the truth. That is not what I asked. She looked at him. Blood had reached his upper lip. Dark circles bruised the skin beneath his glowing eyes. The man before her barely resembled the graceful young noble who had returned to the capital for months earlier. Cashin, she said carefully, if I had known sovereign insight was a covenant that consumed its bearer, I would never have given it to me. Silence. Something ugly passed across his face. So you would have let Lucian keep it. I would have found another way. No. His voice sharpened. You would have protected him. That isn't fair. Fair. He laughed again. You gave me his power because you said I deserved a chance. You did. But now that it hurts, suddenly you feel guilty. I feel responsible. For me. She did not answer quickly enough. Cashin saw it. For him. No. Liar. Serafina's expression hardened. Enough. The old authority returned to her voice. Cashin stared at her. For a moment, sovereign insight seemed to recede. Then he looked away. I'm sorry. She exhaled slowly. Sit. This time he obeyed. Serafina poured water. His hands shook as he took the cup. How bad is it? I can handle it. That wasn't my question. He looked exhausted. Finally, he whispered. I haven't slept in 3 days. She closed her eyes. And before that, an hour. Maybe 2. Why didn't you tell me? He gave her a strange smile. Would it have mattered? That question hurt because she had once deserved to hear it from another man. Cashin continued. The skill won't let me rest. What do you mean? If there is a problem anywhere near me, I see it. His fingers tightened around the cup. If there isn't a problem, I find one. Serafina remembered Lucian standing before windows in the middle of the night. Always thinking, always working. She had admired his discipline. She had never understood that sometimes it was not discipline. It was imprisonment. Can the transfer be reversed? Cashin looked up. She wished she could take the question back. You want to give it back to him? I want to stop this. His jaw tightened. You said Lucian could not surrender it voluntarily. Yes. Then how did I receive it? Because another claimant took it. Cashin stared. Understanding came slowly. His face lost color. You used me. No. You knew he couldn't get rid of it. I learned that afterward. You freed him. Serafina closed her eyes. Yes. Cashin began laughing. At first quietly. Then louder. The sound frightened her. I freed Lucian. Cashin. I thought I stole the thing that made him untouchable. He pressed both hands to his temples. And instead I took the chain off his neck and locked it around mine. Serafina stepped closer. Let me find a way to reverse it. He looked up sharply. No. Why? Because if I give this back, what do I have left? She stared. You have your name. Your title. My title came from you. That doesn't make it meaningless. My position came from you. Cashin, my reputation is already collapsing. He stood. Every mistake I make becomes proof that Lucian was better. That is not. Every success becomes proof I copied him. His breath came faster. If I lose sovereign insight now, I become exactly what everyone said I was. Serafina knew the answer, but she asked anyway. What? His eyes burned gold. Your charity. At sunrise, Lucian's marriage oath expired. There was no thunder, no magical explosion, no dramatic proclamation. He was standing on the balcony of his mother's manor when it happened. One moment, the old covenant mark beneath his wedding ring scar remained faintly visible. The next, it vanished. Lucian stared at his hand. Nothing. No chain. No royal binding. No magical obligation to answer military summons. No oath tethering his life force to Aurelia's defense network. No marriage seal linking his status to Princess Serafina. For the first time since he was 23, his life belonged entirely to him. Rowan stepped onto the balcony. It's done. Lucian nodded. How do you feel? He looked toward the sunrise. Quiet. Rowan smiled. That seems to be your favorite word lately. It is. A carriage approached the manor gate. Rowan looked down. That will be Lady Alara. Lucian frowned. She's early. Perhaps something happened. Something had. Alara entered carrying 2 books and a sealed royal document. Cashin is deteriorating. Lucian's expression did not change. How quickly? Faster than expected. That makes sense. Serafina appeared behind her. Lucian went still. He had not expected that. She looked as though she had not slept. Again, her hair was loose. No crown. No royal coat. No attendants. Just Serafina. She walked toward him. Lucian. He looked at Alara. You brought her. Alara answered calmly. She would have followed. Serafina stepped closer. I need your help. Lucian almost smiled at the irony. Once, he would have crossed kingdoms for that sentence. Now he only asked, with what? Cashin. Rowan quietly left. Alara moved toward the far side of the room. Serafina took a breath. The covenant is hurting him. I assumed it would. He hasn't slept in days. I rarely did. She flinched. Golden veins are appearing around his eyes. Expected. He's bleeding. So did I? Every answer hit her harder. Serafina looked at his face. How long? What? How long did you live like that? Lucian turned toward the window. Years. All 7. No. She exhaled with relief. Then he added, the first year was worse. Her relief disappeared. Why didn't you tell me? Lucian looked at her. I did. She closed her eyes. Yes. That surprised him. For once she did not argue. I remember now. Her voice was very quiet. You told me you couldn't sleep. He said nothing. You told me the headaches were getting worse. Silence. You told me after Blackridge that the covenant was damaging your body. Lucian watched her. Serafina swallowed. I thought you were exaggerating because you wanted less work. There it was. The truth. No excuse. No defense. Just the truth. Lucian nodded once. At least you remember. I'm sorry. He did not respond. Serafina's eyes filled. I should have listened. Yes. I should have asked. Yes. I should have noticed. Yes. Every answer stripped away another defense. She looked down, then forced herself to continue. Can the transfer be reversed? Lucian knew this question was coming. Yes. Her head snapped up. Hope flooded her face. How? He has to reject the covenant. He won't. Then it can't be reversed. What if he does? Lucian's expression remained calm. The former bearer must accept it. Serafina stopped breathing. No. Yes. So you would have to take it back. Yes. She stared at him. The answer had changed everything. For the first time since arriving, she seemed unable to speak. Finally, would you? No. The word was instant. Absolute. Serafina's face went pale. Lucian. No. He could die? Lucian looked at her. And the word shocked her. You don't mean that. I do. He is suffering. So was I. Lucian, how many times did you ask whether I would die? Her mouth closed. He stepped closer. How many? She could not answer. How many times did you ask what sovereign insight was doing to me? Silence. How many nights did you come looking when I was vomiting blood after using it? Her face crumpled. Stop. No. His voice remained quiet. That is the difference between guilt and consequence. Serafina. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I didn't know. You didn't want to know. I know. That stopped him. She wiped her face. I know. For the first time. She sounded broken not because Lucian was leaving, but because she finally understood why. I chose what was easiest to believe. Lucian said nothing. I believed Cashin deserved the power because then I didn't have to admit how much I depended on you. Her voice shook. I believed you were arrogant because everyone trusted you. She laughed bitterly. I thought the kingdom loved you because of the skill. Lucian looked away. Serafina continued. And I thought if Cashin had it, then maybe he would stand where you stood. He wanted that too. I know. Do you? Her eyes shifted toward Alara. Yes. Something in her tone made Lucian look back. But Serafina said only, if he rejects it, you truly won't take it back. No, even if it kills him. Lucian looked at his unmarked hand. I spent 7 years chained to something everyone envied. Then he met her eyes. I will not die because another man wanted my legend. Serafina had no answer. Lucian walked toward the door. She whispered, the marriage oath is gone. He stopped. Yes. She looked down at her ring. Do I still have the right to call you my husband? The room became silent. Lucian could have been cruel. Some part of him thought she deserved cruelty. Instead, he answered honestly. No. Serafina closed her eyes. Lucian left. Behind him, he heard her crying. He did not turn around. Lucian left the capital the next morning. There was no royal procession, no farewell ceremony, no crowd of officials. One carriage. For horses. Rowan. 3 trunks. That was all. Serafina watched from the western tower. He never looked back. She had imagined this moment many times over the previous week. In every version, something stopped him. Her apology. Her father's authority. A crisis. Cashin's collapse. Some final piece of their marriage. Nothing did. Lucian simply passed through the western gate and disappeared down the mountain road. Serafina stood there long after the carriage vanished. Behind her, Emperor Aldrich said, you finally understand. She did not turn. Understand what? That losing a loyal man is not the same as losing a useful one. She closed her eyes. Her father continued. A useful man can be replaced. Serafina whispered, and a loyal one. Aldrich looked toward the empty road. Usually leaves only once. 3 days later, Duke Alaric of Ravenspire held a public assembly. No one in the capital initially cared. Ravenspire had always been difficult. Independent. Proud. Annoyingly wealthy. Then Alaric made his announcement. He stood before thousands of citizens and read from a single page. By unanimous consent of the Ravenspire Council, Lord Lucian Vale is invited to assume the title of High Protector of Ravenspire. The capital erupted. Cashin laughed when he heard. A provincial courtesy. Minister Halden did not laugh. Serafina said nothing. The next morning, Frostmere followed. Then Redhaven. Then Eastwatch. By the 4th day, 6 provinces had offered Lucian identical authority. Not kingship. Not rebellion. Something more dangerous. Trust. Each province retained formal allegiance to Aurelia. But military planning, trade protection, disaster management, and strategic coordination were now entrusted to Lucian. He was building a parallel network without declaring war on anyone. Emperor Aldrich read the documents twice, then smiled. Serafina stared. Why are you smiling? Because it is elegant. My husband is taking half the kingdom. Former husband. She flinched. Aldrich ignored it. And he is taking nothing. What? He is not seizing land. 6 provinces invited him. He planned this. Yes. And you still admire it. Of course. Serafina stared at her father. Aldrich folded the letter. You still think power means ownership. He looked toward the map. Lucian understands something you do not. What? People follow the person who makes survival possible. By the end of the week, all 12 provinces had joined. The announcement came from Silverfall. The 12 province, its language was careful. No rejection of the crown. No declaration of independence. No treason. Only mutual cooperation under a single strategic protector. Lucian Vale. Foreign kingdoms reacted immediately. Valeria requested trade talks. The Free Cities sent ambassadors. The Northern Maritime League reopened negotiations it had suspended 2 years earlier. Merchant houses began relocating secondary offices into compact territory. Artificer guilds followed. Then healers. Engineers. Scholars. Cashin watched the numbers with increasing horror. This is economic warfare. Halden replied. No. What do you call it? Movement. Toward him. Yes. Cashin's fist struck the table. Serafina entered just in time to see it. Enough. Cashin turned. His appearance had worsened. He wore makeup now to hide the golden veins. It did not work. You don't understand what he is doing. Serafina looked at the map. I understand perfectly. He is humiliating you. No. He is proving the kingdom needs him. No. Then what? She looked at Cassian. He is leaving. The answer stunned him. Seraphina continued. We keep thinking everything he does is aimed at us. She remembered Lucian asking, do you really think everything I do is about you? I don't think it is anymore. Cassian stared. That makes it worse. She frowned. Why? Because if he isn't trying to defeat us, then this is effortless. The room became silent. Even Halden looked at him. Cassian finally understood his own words. Lucian was not fighting for influence. Influence was simply following him. The official appointment happened in Ravenspire. 12 provincial banners surrounded the central square. Lucian stood on a simple black platform. No crown, no jeweled armor, no royal insignia. Only a dark coat bearing the silver wolf of House Vale. 12 rulers stood behind him. Duke Alaric spoke first. For 5 years, Lord Lucian protected our roads when the crown forgot them. Lady Marin continued. He negotiated our grain reserves when royal ministers called our needs provincial inconvenience. Lord Kale of Eastwatch added. He repaired our eastern defenses without demanding loyalty in return. One by one, they spoke. Not about sovereign insight. About Lucian. Foreign ambassadors watched. Merchants watched. Soldiers watched. And through a scrying mirror in the capital, Seraphina watched too. Lucian accepted the title. High Protector. No kneeling. No crown. No oath of supremacy. Only mutual responsibility. The crowd roared. Seraphina felt something break inside her. Cassian stood beside her. He always wanted this. She looked at him. What? Power. His voice was hard. Now you see. No. He used you. Seraphina's eyes narrowed. Cassian continued. He used the crown to build his reputation. Then when he had enough support, he left. That is not what happened. How do you know? Because I was there. And you believe his version now. Seraphina turned fully toward him. You told me he was afraid to lose sovereign insight. Cassian's expression changed. You said he would come crawling back once you had it. I was wrong. You said the border lords followed his power. They did. No. Seraphina pointed toward the mirror. Listen to them. Duke Alaric was speaking again. Not one word about the legendary skill. Cassian looked away. You're defending him. I'm correcting you. Same thing. His voice grew sharp. You regret choosing me. Seraphina froze. Cassian stepped closer. Say it. Cassian. Say it. You need rest. I need the truth. Golden light flickered in his eyes. You wish you never gave me the skill. She hesitated. He laughed. That is enough. Cassian, you wish you never let me back into your life. No. That one came faster. But not fast enough. His expression changed. You had to think about it. Seraphina suddenly felt tired. You are not well. Because of him. No. Because of him. The mirror cracked. Cassian had struck it. Seraphina stepped back. The sound echoed through the room. He stared at his bleeding knuckles. Then at her. I'm sorry. But she was no longer looking at his hand. She was looking at his face. At the rage. The obsession. The panic. And for the first time, she wondered something she had refused to ask for months. Did Cassian ever love her? Or had he only loved what she could give him? The answer began arriving that night. Cassian entered the old defense archive alone. Sovereign insight burned behind his eyes. The 12 provinces adored Lucian. The court compared them. Seraphina doubted him. The kingdom still called Lucian legendary. Cassian had the skill. And nothing else. That had to change. He opened the capital defense plans. Thousands of weaknesses appeared. Supply channels. Ward intersections. Emergency reserves. Civilian evacuation routes. And one particular vulnerability beneath the central city. The ancient defense network. Cassian smiled. A thought formed. If a crisis happened, a crisis only sovereign insight could solve, then the kingdom would finally understand why he mattered. He placed his hand on the map. One minor failure. Controlled. Manageable. Then he would repair it publicly. Seraphina would see. The court would see. Everyone would see. He was not Lucian's replacement. He was Lucian's superior. Cassian began writing. He did not notice the blood dripping from his nose onto the parchment. The first letter was 20 years old. Seraphina almost threw it away. She had entered Cassian's private chamber looking for medicine. Nothing more. He had collapsed during breakfast. For 3 minutes. He had not recognized anyone. When he woke, he refused treatment and locked himself inside the strategy room. Seraphina decided she would find whatever he was hiding. She opened drawers, cabinets, travel trunks. At the bottom of an old cedar chest, Beneath clothing from Valeria, she found letters. Dozens. Most were from House Vane. Some had been written before Cashin returned to Aurelia. She recognized his father's seal. The first seemed harmless. Our family must regain access to the royal court. Princess Seraphina remains the most promising avenue. Seraphina frowned. She read the next. Her attachment to you was unusually strong in childhood. If properly renewed, it may restore our position. Her fingers tightened. Third letter. Lucian Vale has awakened the sevenfold inheritance described in the old Vane records. Seraphina stopped breathing. No. She read again. Sevenfold inheritance. Another letter. The ability is believed transferable under royal sponsorship. Her stomach turned. The date was 9 months before Cashin returned. Another. You must not approach Vale directly. His loyalty to the princess is the exploitable weakness. Seraphina's hands began shaking. She opened another. Cashin's handwriting. Seraphina will resist anything that appears openly hostile to Lucian. The better approach is gradual comparison. She already resents how often the court praises him. The room tilted. No. Another. He spends too much time in military affairs. I can position his absence as emotional neglect. Another. Do not insult him publicly. She will defend him out of habit. Instead, suggest that his achievements come from the skill. Let her reach the conclusion herself. Seraphina dropped the letter. Memory struck her. Cashin saying, Lucian is extraordinary. Of course. But sometimes I wonder how much of that is him and how much is sovereign insight. She had laughed then. 3 weeks later, she had repeated the exact thought to her father. Another letter. She feels guilty about what happened between us when we were young. Useful. Seraphina covered her mouth. She remembered Cashin's first night back. His quiet smile. I never blamed you for choosing duty over me. She had cried. He had held her. Now she saw the strategy beneath every word. Another. If she begins giving me responsibilities associated with Vale, do not rush. Familiarity must come before replacement. His new residence. Council seat. Trade authority. Strategic command. Step by step. Planned. Another. The transfer ceremony must appear to be her idea. If I request sovereign insight directly, she may question my motives. Seraphina sank into a chair. The hall. Cashin pretending reluctance. I never wanted to take anything from you. A performance. All of it. A performance. The final letter was recent. Written after the transfer. Success. The skill is mine. Seraphina remains emotionally unstable regarding Vale. But that can be managed once his influence collapses. Below it, if necessary, I will formalize a union with her after the marriage covenant expires. Control of the crown and sovereign insight would restore House Vane completely. Seraphina stared at the words. A union. Not love. Control of the crown. Her chest hurt. She had destroyed her marriage for a memory. Worse, for a lie built around that memory. The door opened. Cashin stood there. They looked at each other. His face changed when he saw the letters. For a moment, neither moved. Then Seraphina asked, How long? Cashin's expression went blank. How long what? She lifted the letter. Don't. His eyes flickered gold. Seraphina stood. How long were you planning this? Those letters are not what you think. She laughed. A terrible sound. You wrote them. They were strategic observations. About me. About the court. About me. Her voice cracked. You knew about sovereign insight before you returned. Cashin said nothing. You knew it was transferable. Silence. You came back for it. No. Then why? He stepped closer. Seraphina. Listen. She backed away. Did you ever love me? His face tightened. Of course. When? What? When? She threw the letters onto the table. When you told your father my guilt was useful. His jaw clenched. When you said Lucian's absence could be turned into resentment. Seraphina. When you said the ceremony had to look like my idea. He stopped. She stared at him. The man she had remembered for 8 years. The boy from the palace gardens. The first person who had told her she was more than a princess. Had that boy ever existed? Or had she simply preserved a version of him that time made beautiful? Cashin looked tired. Then something in him seemed to surrender. Yes. Seraphina went still. Yes what? I knew about the covenant. Her face drained. I knew there were old Vane records. You knew it was dangerous. No. That answer came quickly. I knew it granted extraordinary perception. I knew it could be transferred. I did not know the cost. Seraphina's voice was barely audible. You came back for Lucian's power. Cashin looked at her. At first, the words cut deeper than any denial. At first, I also wanted you. She laughed bitterly. What a comfort. You don't understand what happened to my family. No, you were born a princess. His voice grew harsher. You never watched your father sell heirlooms to pay servants. You never watched nobles who once bowed to your house pretend not to recognize you. I was trying to restore what was stolen from us. By stealing from Lucian. He already had everything. Serafina flinched. Cashin stepped closer. Title, wealth, reputation. You. His eyes burned. He had all of it. He earned most of it. Cashin stared. There. She had said the one thing he could not tolerate. His face twisted. Now you sound exactly like them. Who? Everyone. He began pacing. Lucian did this. Lucian built that. Lucian saved them. Lucian predicted it. His voice rose. I have the same power. No. He stopped. Serafina shook her head. You don't. I have sovereign insight. That is not what made him powerful. Cashin stared. She continued. You still don't understand. Do not lecture me. You stole the ability to see weaknesses. Her voice grew steadier. He spent his entire life learning what to do after he saw them. Cashin's face went white. Serafina looked at the letters. You wanted his legend without living his life. Enough. You wanted his place beside me without earning my trust. Enough. You wanted 12 provinces to follow you because you possessed the same mark on your hand. Enough. Golden light exploded across his eyes. The windows shook. Serafina froze. Cashin breathed hard. Blood appeared beneath his nose. For a moment, he looked afraid of himself. Then every alarm in the palace began ringing. Serafina turned. What happened? Cashin's face changed. Not surprise. Fear. She saw it. You know. He said nothing. What did you do? Nothing. The floor trembled. A red flash crossed the city outside. Serafina ran to the window. One of the capital's defense towers had gone dark. Then another. Then another. Her blood turned cold. You did this. Cashin grabbed her arm. I can fix it. She turned slowly. What? It was supposed to be controlled. Every word became quieter. I only disabled 3 relay channels. Serafina stared. You intentionally attacked the capital defense network. No. You just said. I created a fault. Why? So I could repair it. Silence. Serafina could barely understand what she was hearing. Cashin continued desperately. Everyone thinks Lucian is indispensable. So you endangered the city. I knew I could fix it. Then fix it. His face went pale. Another alarm sounded. He turned toward the map. Golden lines flooded his vision. His breathing became ragged. No. What? The failure is spreading. How? The emergency network is compensating in the wrong direction. Then stop it. I'm trying. Serafina watched him. 5 seconds. 10. 30. Cashin's hands shook. More lines appeared. He pressed both hands to his head. There are too many paths. The floor shook again. Outside, people began shouting. Serafina ran toward the door. Cashin grabbed her. Where are you going? To call my father. No. Let go. He'll destroy me. You endangered thousands of people. I can fix this. You are not fixing anything. His fingers tightened. Do not call Lucian. She froze. Cashin's eyes were wild. That is what you were thinking. Her blood ran cold. He had used sovereign insight on her again. You were thinking about him. Serafina ripped her arm free. Yes. His face twisted. Yes. Cashin. She stepped backward. Because right now, while you are standing here drowning in the power you stole, there is exactly one person I trust to save this city. His expression shattered. Don't. Lucian. Cashin lunged for the door. Serafina moved first. She locked it from the outside, then ran. Lucian was 200 miles away when the emergency message reached him. He stood in the middle of a provincial council meeting. Duke Alaric handed him the crystal. Capital emergency. Lucian looked at the red light. For 1 second, he considered ignoring it. He owed Aurelia nothing now. No oath. No covenant. No marriage. Then the crystal activated. Serafina appeared. Her face was pale. Behind her, alarm screamed. Lucian. He said nothing. Cashin damaged the central defense network. The room around him went silent. How badly? 6 towers offline. Emergency channels cascading. Lucian's expression changed. How? He disabled relay channels to create a crisis he could solve. Alaric muttered a curse. Lucian closed his eyes. That was worse than stupidity. It was vanity. How long? Maybe an hour before the inner wards collapse. Lucian looked toward the 12 provincial rulers around him. Everyone waited. He was no longer the crown strategist. If he left by choice. Serafina understood that. Her voice broke. I know you owe me nothing. Lucian looked at her. She swallowed. I know I have no right to ask. Behind her, another alarm sounded. But there are children in that city who never chose any of this. Lucian closed his eyes. Damn her. She finally knew exactly what to say. Not save me. Not save Cashin. Not save the crown. Save the people. He looked at Alaric. How fast can we reach the capital? Airship. Too visible. Gate network. 40 minutes. Lucian nodded. Open it. Serafina exhaled. Lucian, he cut the connection. Not because he was angry. Because he was already working. 40 minutes later, the gates of the Royal Strategy Chamber burst open. Lucian walked inside. Every official turned. Cashin was kneeling beside the central map. Blood covered his collar. Golden veins had spread across half his face. He looked up. No. Lucian ignored him. Serafina stepped forward. Can you fix it? Lucian looked at the map. 30 seconds. 1 minute. Then 2. Without sovereign insight. No golden light. No mystical mark. Nothing. He studied the network. Then pointed. Tower 6 must fail. The engineers stared. Serafina said, do it. Cashin shouted, no? If Tower 6 fails, the South District loses protection. Lucian replied, for 90 seconds. You'll expose the city. Better 90 seconds than permanent collapse. Cashin struggled upright. You don't have sovereign insight. Lucian looked at him. And yet here I am. He gave another order. Disconnect the western relay. Done. Reverse current through the old cathedral grid. An engineer hesitated. That system is obsolete. I built it as a hidden reserve. Serafina stared. Of course he had. Lucian had built contingency plans even she never knew existed. Activate it. The map shifted. One red section turned amber. Cashin watched in disbelief. Lucian continued. Now collapse Tower 6. The tower went black. People gasped. Lucian counted. 10. The central network flickered. 20. 2 failing lines stabilized. 30. The emergency channel reset. 40. Cashin whispered. No. 50. More red vanished. 60. The cathedral reserve absorbed the overload. 70. Cashin stared at the map. How did you know? Lucian did not answer. 80. Every ward around the inner city synchronized. 90. Lucian lifted one hand. Restore Tower 6. The map turned gold. All of it. Silence. Then the bells outside stopped ringing. No cheering came immediately. Everyone was too stunned. Cashin stared at Lucian. You solved it without the skill. Lucian looked at him. Yes. How? Lucian's answer was quiet. Because you keep believing the skill gave me 7 years of experience. Cashin's face emptied. Lucian stepped closer. It didn't. You're lying. No. I have everything you had. Lucian looked at the golden veins across his face. No. Then he said the sentence that broke Cashin completely. You stole my power. Silence. You never stole what made me legendary. Cashin stared at him. Behind Lucian, Serafina closed her eyes. Because finally, brutally, completely, the illusion was dead. The first love she had protected had wanted Lucian's life. But he had never understood the cost of becoming Lucian. And the husband she had sacrificed had never needed the thing she thought made him great. Cashin disappeared from the Royal Strategy Chamber before dawn. No one noticed immediately. There were too many reports. Too many damaged relay stations. Too many frightened citizens. Too many officials trying to calculate how close the capital had come to disaster. Lucian remained for 3 hours. He refused every title offered to him. Refused the emperor's private invitation. Refused Serafina's request to rest in the palace. He stayed only long enough to make sure the defense network would not collapse again. Then he walked away. Serafina followed him into the western corridor. Lucian. He stopped. She hated how relieved she felt whenever he still responded to his name in her voice. What? Thank you. He looked at her. For what? For coming back. I came for the city. I know. That hurt. But she forced herself to accept it. That's why I'm thanking you. Lucian studied her. Something in his expression softened. Not love. Not yet. Perhaps never again. But recognition. Serafina had learned. Far too late. That there were worse things than anger. Indifference was one. Polite forgiveness was another. Lucian's courtesy frightened her more than the arguments they used to have. She stepped closer. Cashin will be removed from command. Lucian said nothing. I should have done it sooner. Yes. I should never have given him your position. Yes, I should never have let him take sovereign insight. Lucian's eyes moved toward the window. Morning light was beginning to color the sky. You already said you were sorry. That doesn't fix anything. No, she swallowed. Do you hate me? That made him look back. For several seconds, he said nothing. Serafina wished he would say yes. Hatred was still a bond. Hatred meant she mattered. Instead, Lucian answered, no. Her heart sank. Why? Because hating you would require too much of my life. The words were quiet, simple, devastating. Serafina looked down. I suppose I deserve that. I wasn't trying to hurt you. That makes it worse. Lucian sighed. Serafina. She forced herself to meet his eyes. For years, I thought the worst thing you could do was stop loving me. Her voice trembled. I didn't understand that I was teaching you how to live without me. Lucian did not answer, because there was nothing to say. Then footsteps echoed at the far end of the corridor. Minister Halden appeared. He was running. Your Highness, Serafina turned. What happened? Commander Vane is missing. Lucian's expression changed instantly. Since when? We believe shortly after the network stabilized. Who saw him last? One of the archive guards. Lucian's eyes narrowed. Which archive? Halden hesitated. The Covenant Vault. Serafina went pale. Lucian was already moving. The Covenant Vault lay beneath the old palace chapel. By the time they reached it, 3 doors had been forced open. The final chamber glowed gold. Cassian stood at its center. Ancient symbols covered the floor. Sovereign insight had spread across his body now. Golden veins ran down his throat. His hands shook. Blood stained the front of his shirt. Serafina stopped at the doorway. Cassian. He looked up and smiled. There you are. Lucian entered slowly. What did you activate? Cassian laughed. You know. Lucian looked at the symbols. His expression darkened. Reverse transference. Serafina's stomach turned. Cassian. Stop. He ignored her. His eyes remained fixed on Lucian. You said you didn't want it. I don't. Then take it back. No. Cassian's smile vanished. You have to. Lucian stepped closer. No. The golden symbols brightened. Cassian raised one hand. I found the old rite. The old rite requires consent. I changed it. Lucian's face hardened. You can't. Sovereign insight showed me the binding weaknesses. Cassian. No. His voice cracked. You don't understand. Lucian almost laughed. I understand better than anyone. Cassian pointed at him. You lost the skill and became more powerful. No. 12 provinces chose you. They chose before the transfer. Foreign kingdoms want alliances. They wanted them before. You fixed the capital without sovereign insight. Yes. Cassian's breathing became erratic. So what was the point? Lucian frowned. What? What was the point of me taking it? Serafina closed her eyes. There it was. The question Cassian had been trying not to ask since the Eastern Fortress. If the skill did not make Lucian great, then Cassian's entire plan meant nothing. He had destroyed himself for a symbol. Cassian laughed bitterly. I thought once I had it, they would look at me the way they looked at you. Lucian said nothing. I thought Serafina would. She flinched. Cassian's gaze moved to her. For years, I imagined coming back here. His voice lowered. Everyone would regret what they did to House Vane. Cassian, I would stand beside the future empress. Serafina's face became cold. And Lucian? Cassian looked at him. He was supposed to become irrelevant. Lucian nodded slowly. At least you finally said it. Cassian's mouth twisted. I hated you before I ever met you. Why? Because everything I wanted had your name on it. Lucian almost smiled. That sounds exhausting. Cassian shouted. Stop acting as though you are above this. The room shook. Golden light surged through the floor. Serafina stepped forward. Cassian, deactivate the rite. No, it's killing you. I know. The answer shocked her. Cassian looked at his hands. The Covenant is accelerating. He laughed weakly. I can feel my heart changing. Serafina went pale. Then let us help you. There is only one way. He looked at Lucian. He takes it back. Lucian shook his head. Cassian's expression broke. Why? Because it is not mine anymore. You survived it, barely. You know how to control it, yes. Then you can survive again. Lucian's gaze became cold. And you believe your life is worth mine. Cassian froze. Serafina did too. Lucian stepped closer. That is what you are asking. No. Yes. You're stronger. So, you know how to handle it. So I should spend another 7 years dying because you wanted my reputation. Cassian's jaw trembled. Lucian continued. You made a choice. So did Serafina. Serafina flinched. Cassian pointed toward her. She authorized it. Lucian looked at her. I know. She put me on that platform. I remember. So why am I the only one paying? Silence. That question hit harder. Serafina answered before Lucian could. You're not. Cashin turned. She stepped into the chamber. You think I haven't lost anything? His face twisted. You still have your crown. No. She looked at Lucian. I lost the person who made that crown worth wearing. Lucian's expression changed slightly. Serafina looked back at Cashin. I lost my marriage. You chose that. Yes. She did not defend herself. Cashin went quiet. Serafina continued. I lost the trust of 12 provinces. You're still a princess. I lost my father's faith in my judgment. That can be repaired. Perhaps. Her voice hardened. But none of that gives me the right to ask Lucian to die for my mistake. Cashin stared. She had finally chosen. Not Lucian over Cashin. Something harder. Responsibility over desire. Lucian saw it. So did Cashin. And Cashin hated her for it. You're abandoning me. No. You are. I am refusing to sacrifice him again. The golden light exploded. Cashin slammed his hand onto the central sigil. Then I'll make the covenant choose. Lucian moved instantly. Serafina. Back. The rite activated. Gold filled the chamber. Pain struck Lucian's chest. For one horrifying second, the old pressure returned. Maps. Voices. Weaknesses. 1,000 calculations. The covenant recognized him. Serafina screamed his name. Cashin laughed. Yes. Golden threads moved from his body toward Lucian. The old mark began appearing on Lucian's wrist. Lucian stared at it. 7 circles. 7 blades. Broken crown. No. He had spent 7 years waiting to remove that mark. He would not wear it again. Not for Cashin. Not for Serafina. Not for Aurelia. Not for anyone. Cashin shouted. Accept it. Lucian looked at him. No. The golden threads tightened. Lucian's knees nearly buckled. He could feel the covenant testing him, recognizing him, offering familiarity, power, instant calculation, perfect awareness. The old addiction. For the first time since losing sovereign insight, Lucian understood something. A small part of him had missed it. Not the pain, the certainty, knowing every risk, seeing every weakness, never being surprised. Freedom had a cost too. Uncertainty. For 7 years, he had known too much. Now he had to choose without perfect answers. And he preferred it. Lucian straightened. Cashin's eyes widened. How? Lucian grabbed the golden thread around his wrist. Not physically. Something deeper. Something inside himself. Then he rejected it. The mark shattered. Cashin screamed. The covenant slammed backward. Golden light exploded through his body. Serafina covered her eyes. Then silence. Cashin collapsed. The symbols went dark. Lucian remained standing, breathing hard, but free, still free. Serafina ran toward him. Lucian, I'm fine. Your wrist. The mark was gone. Completely. Cashin groaned. Serafina turned. He was alive. Barely. The golden veins were fading. Lucian knelt beside him. Cashin looked up. Why didn't it take you? Lucian answered quietly. Because I no longer need what it offers. Cashin frowned. What? Lucian sat back. For 7 years. Sovereign insight forced me to study every battlefield, every treaty, every fortress, every negotiation. Cashin stared. It showed me patterns. Lucian tapped his temple. I learned them. No. Yes. The skill is gone. The power is gone. Cashin's face slowly emptied. Lucian continued. But the lessons stayed. Serafina understood. All those years. Every decision. Every impossible solution. Sovereign insight had provided information. Lucian had turned information into judgment. The covenant could be stolen. Experience could not. Cashin whispered. So I never had what you had. Lucian looked at him. No. The answer destroyed him more completely than any punishment could. Cashin's trial took place 3 weeks later. Not for taking sovereign insight. Serafina had authorized that. Not for competing with Lucian. Ambition was not a crime. He was judged for deliberately sabotaging the Capital Defense Network, for endangering civilians, for falsifying emergency orders, for accessing forbidden covenant rights, and for attempting forced transference. Serafina attended. She did not sit beside him. Cashin entered without titles, without ceremonial armor, without sovereign insight. The covenant had burned itself out during the failed reverse transfer. For the first time since the ceremony, his eyes were simply brown. Ordinary. He looked smaller. The court read the evidence. His letters. His plans. His calculations. The confession hidden in his own notes. There was no dramatic defense. Nothing left to deny. When asked whether he regretted returning to Aurelia, Cashin looked toward Serafina. No, the room murmured. He continued. I regret believing power could make people love me. Serafina closed her eyes. Perhaps that was the first honest thing he had said in years. His lands were stripped. His command revoked. House Vane lost political privileges. Cashin was sent away from the capital under permanent restriction. Not executed. Not destroyed. Simply removed from the game he had spent years trying to win. Lucian did not attend. That hurt Cashin more than judgment. The night after the trial, Serafina found Lucian on the palace roof. He had returned only to sign the final 12-province compact with the Emperor. Tomorrow he would leave again. She approached slowly. He did not turn. I thought you hated this roof. I used to. Why? Too many defensive weaknesses. Serafina smiled sadly. And now? The view is good. She stood beside him. For a while, neither spoke. Then Serafina removed her crown. She placed it on the stone ledge. Lucian glanced at it. What are you doing? Talking to you without it. It's still your crown. I know. She looked toward the city. I resigned from the succession council today. Lucian turned. That surprised him. You wanted the throne your entire life. Yes. Why? Serafina gave a small laugh. Because I don't trust myself with it yet. That answer surprised him more. My father said the same thing. Lucian smiled. Your father has always been irritatingly observant. He likes you. I know. He likes you more than me. That seems unlikely. It isn't. They both almost laughed. The silence afterward was gentler. Serafina looked at him. Can I ask you something? Yes. If Cashin had never returned, would we still be married? Lucian thought for a long time. No. She looked away. The answer hurt. But she had asked for truth. Why? Because the problem wasn't Cashin. She nodded slowly. It was me. It was us. That small mercy almost broke her. Lucian continued. I kept sacrificing things without asking whether I should. And I kept accepting them without asking what they cost. Yes. I thought love meant you would always stay. I thought love meant I had to. Serafina's eyes filled. They stood in silence. Then she said, I still love you. Lucian looked at her. She did not reach for him. Did not beg. Did not promise change. I know that doesn't mean you should come back. He remained silent. I know being sorry doesn't repair what I did. Still silence. I know you may never forgive me enough to trust me again. Lucian finally said, I forgive you. Her breath caught. But there doesn't have to be a but. She stared. Forgiveness isn't the same as returning. Tears spilled down her face. Serafina nodded. I know. And for once, she truly did. She looked toward the city. Will I ever see you again? Yes. As what? Lucian considered. Two people who once mattered very much to each other. That hurt. But it was not nothing. Serafina smiled through tears. Very diplomatic. I learned from a princess. She laughed softly. Then it happened. One final time. His thought reached her, clear as if whispered beside her ear. I loved you enough to build an empire beneath your feet. Serafina stopped breathing. Lucian was looking toward the horizon. He did not know she could hear him. But somewhere along the way, I disappeared inside your life. Her hand tightened around the stone ledge. I don't want revenge. Tears rolled silently down her face. I don't want you to suffer. Then the final thought. I just want my life to belong to me. Serafina closed her eyes. When she opened them, Lucian was looking at her. Perhaps he understood from her expression. Did you hear that? She nodded. He sighed. Apparently that connection still exists. Serafina smiled sadly. Maybe not for long. Lucian looked toward the sunrise beginning beyond the city walls. No. She put her crown back on. Not because she needed it between them. Because she finally understood the weight. Goodbye. Lucian. He nodded. Goodbye. Serafina. This time when he walked away, she did not follow. Because loving someone, she finally understood, could also mean allowing them to leave. 1 year later, King stood when Lucian Vale entered a room. The irony was not lost on him. He had no crown, no royal blood, no legendary mark, no official imperial title. And yet the grand hall of Silverfall rose as one when the doors opened. Representatives from 14 kingdoms, 12 provincial rulers, merchant guild masters, foreign ambassadors, artificers, scholars, commanders, all stood. Rowan walked half a step behind him. You hate this. Lucian kept smiling. Deeply. Should I tell them? No. They would probably sit. That would somehow be worse. Rowan suppressed a laugh. At the far end of the hall, Duke Alaric waited beside the central table. Behind him hung the new banner of the 12-province compact. No crown, no sword, a silver bridge connecting 12 stars. Lucian had objected to the symbolism. Everyone ignored him. Alaric held out one hand. High Protector. Alaric, you're late. I arrived 3 minutes early. You usually arrive 10 minutes early. I'm improving. You're becoming irresponsible. Freedom has corrupted me. They shook hands. A year had changed more than Lucian expected. Ravenspire's trade output had doubled. Frostmere's grain shortage was gone. Eastwatch's roads now connected directly to 3 foreign markets. The compact had expanded commercially without expanding territorially. That distinction mattered. Lucian had no desire to become a king. People kept trying to make him one anyway. The newspapers had chosen a ridiculous title, the Crownless King. He hated it, which, naturally, made everyone use it more. Rowan leaned closer. The Aurelia delegation has arrived. Lucian's hand paused over a document. He looked toward the entrance. Seraphina entered. 1 year. She looked different. Not dramatically. Still silver blonde. Still elegant. Still unmistakably royal. But the diamond crown was gone. She wore only a narrow silver circlet. Her clothing was simpler. Fewer attendants. No cash-in. No theatrical display. She walked beside Emperor Aldric. Not ahead of him. Aldric saw Lucian and smiled. Dangerous. Lucian knew that smile. Prepare yourself. Rowan whispered. For what? His Majesty appears delighted. That is never good. Aldric approached. Lucian, Your Majesty. Still refusing to bow properly. Still pretending to care. Aldric laughed. Seraphina smiled. The old Lucian would have analyzed everything about that smile. Was she nervous? Regretful? Hopeful? Now he simply saw a smile. Freedom. Again. Always freedom. Seraphina. He said. Lucian. No title. That was new. Alaric appeared beside them. Princess. Duke. Aldric looked around. Are we going to stand here acting civilized all afternoon? Yes. Lucian said. That sounds awful. Seraphina laughed. For one moment. It felt almost like years ago. But not painfully. Memory without obligation. Lucian had not expected that to be possible. The summit began at noon. Its purpose was simple. Aurelia and the 12-province compact were formalizing a permanent economic partnership. A year earlier, the idea would have humiliated Seraphina. Now she presented the proposal herself. Lucian watched from across the table. She spoke clearly. No attempt to dominate. No implication that the provinces were returning to royal control. She referred to them as partners, not dependents. Alaric noticed too. He leaned toward Lucian. She learned. Lucian kept his eyes on the documents. Yes. Does that bother you? No. You're lying. Lucian looked at him. Why would it bother me? Because people prefer when former lovers remain terrible. That sounds unhealthy. It is comforting. Lucian almost smiled. The negotiations lasted 4 hours. No crisis. No betrayal. No collapsing magical barrier. No legendary skill. Strangely enjoyable. At the end, Seraphina signed. Then Lucian. The hall applauded. Aurelia and the compact were no longer bound by his marriage, or his covenant, or his sacrifice. They were bound because the agreement benefited both sides. Lucian liked that better. Far better. Cassian Vane lived in a coastal town 300 miles south. Lucian knew this because Cassian had written him once. Only once. The letter had arrived 5 months earlier. No excuses. No request for pardon. No attempt to reclaim status. Only a few lines. I used to think you were lucky. Then I received the thing I envied most. I understand now that I envied the result because I never wanted to pay the price. Lucian had read it twice, then placed it in a drawer. He did not reply. Not because he hated Cassian. Because some relationships did not require another chapter. Cassian reportedly worked as a logistics clerk for a shipping house. Ordinary work. Ordinary life. Perhaps that was punishment. Perhaps mercy. Lucian no longer cared which. That evening, after the summit, Lucian stood on the western balcony of Silverfall Palace. The city below glowed with lanterns. Music drifted from the celebration hall. A familiar voice came from behind him. You always escape banquets. Lucian looked over his shoulder. Seraphina. I stayed for 2 hours. A heroic achievement. I thought so. She joined him at the railing. For a while, they watched the city. Seraphina broke the silence. I heard they offered you a crown again. 3 crowns. She laughed. 3. Ravenspire, Frostmere, and the Maritime League. What did you say? No. All 3 times. The third time I used more colorful language. She smiled. They call you Crownless King anyway. I'm surrounded by terrible people. You secretly like it. I absolutely do not. I know. There was warmth in her voice. Not possession. Not longing disguised as authority. Just warmth. Lucian found he did not mind it. Serafina looked toward the city. My father is transferring more administrative authority to me again. Congratulations. I told him I wasn't ready. What did he say? That people who think they are ready are usually the least ready. Lucian nodded. That sounds like him. I'm trying. I know. She looked at him. You do. I receive reports. Of course you do. I don't use Sovereign Insight anymore. I still have messengers. She laughed softly, then became serious. I changed how the Royal Strategy offices work. Lucian waited. No more personal covenant bindings. Good. No magical oaths tied to marriage. Very good. And anyone carrying a high-risk artifact is required to undergo independent medical review. Lucian glanced at her. That sounds annoyingly sensible. I had a good example of what not to do. He did not respond. She looked down. I'm not telling you this because I want praise. I know. I suppose I want you to know that what happened changed something. Lucian nodded. It should. It did. They stood quietly. Then Serafina asked, Are you happy? The question surprised him. He considered it seriously. Yes. Her smile trembled slightly. Good. No bitterness. No accusation. Just good. Lucian noticed. You. She looked out over Silverfall. Sometimes. That is probably more realistic. I used to think happiness meant getting everything I wanted. And now, I think sometimes it means wanting better things. Lucian smiled. That almost sounded wise. She elbowed him lightly. The gesture surprised both of them. Then they laughed. It did not mean reconciliation. It did not mean the past vanished. It meant the past had stopped controlling the room. That was enough. Later that night, Emperor Aldrich found Lucian in the library. Of course he did. You avoided me all evening. I was hoping you wouldn't notice. I am Emperor. I assumed that came with poor observation skills. Aldrich poured himself wine. You've become insolent. I'm free. There it is again. Lucian looked up. What? That word. Aldrich sat. Free. Lucian closed his book. What about it? You spent your entire life chasing responsibility. I know. And now everyone follows you anyway. A cruel joke. Aldrich smiled. Do you regret losing Sovereign Insight? Lucian looked at his wrist. No mark. 1 year later. He still sometimes woke expecting the golden lines. Still occasionally entered a room and waited for information that never came. At first, the silence had frightened him. What if he missed something? What if he made the wrong decision? Then he realized something important. Everyone made decisions without certainty. That was not weakness. That was life. No, Lucian said. Aldrich leaned back. Not even occasionally. Occasionally, I miss knowing the answer immediately. Understandable. But I don't miss paying for certainty with my life. The Emperor nodded. Lucian looked out the window. Losing it was the best thing Serafina ever gave me. Aldrich raised one eyebrow. She will hate that sentence. She already knows. You told her. No. She hears your thoughts. Lucian stared. Aldrich smiled. You think I don't know? How? I'm Emperor. That is becoming a very convenient explanation. Aldrich laughed. Then he stood. Before leaving, he said, For what it is worth, I am glad you did not take her back. Lucian blinked. He had not expected that. Aldrich continued. She needed to become someone who could stand without you. And I needed to become someone who could leave. Yes. The Emperor nodded. Perhaps now, if you ever meet again, neither of you will need the other to disappear. Then he walked out. Lucian stared after him. Annoyingly observant old man. The final morning of the summit arrived clear and bright. Delegations gathered in the central hall. Lucian entered last. Not intentionally. Rowan had misplaced one of the trade ledgers. At least that was what Rowan claimed. Lucian suspected sabotage. The hall rose. Again. He sighed. Serafina stood near the Aurelia delegation. A year earlier, she had stood above him beneath a crystal dome while another man received his legendary skill. Everyone had watched Lucian kneel. Everyone had expected him to break. Now foreign kings stood when he entered. No skill. No crown. No royal marriage. No borrowed status. Just Lucian. He looked across the hall. Serafina met his eyes. She smiled. Not sadly. Not possessively. She inclined her head. A gesture between equals. Lucian returned it. Then he walked to his place. The summit ended at noon. Carriages prepared outside. Serafina was leaving for Aurelia, Lucian for Ravenspire. At the steps, they met one final time. For now, Serafina said. For now? She hesitated. Do you remember the ascension ceremony? Lucian laughed. Difficult to forget. I heard your thoughts that day. I know. I thought you were mocking me. Lucian shook his head. I wasn't. I thought you were planning revenge. No. I thought maybe you had another hidden power. No. She smiled. I spent months trying to understand why you were happy. Lucian looked toward the open road. And now? Serafina followed his gaze. Now I understand. He waited. She said, you weren't happy because Cashin had lost. No. You weren't happy because I would regret it. No. You were happy because for the first time, what happened next belonged to you. Lucian smiled. Yes. A carriage door opened. Serafina stepped toward it, then paused. Lucian. Yes. I am sorry it took losing you to understand you. He looked at her. I know. And I am glad you became free. That surprised him. She meant it. He could tell without magic, without sovereign insight, simply because he knew her. Lucian nodded. Thank you. Serafina entered the carriage. It rolled away. Lucian watched until it disappeared beyond the gates. Not because he wanted to follow, because some endings deserved to be witnessed. Rowan approached. Ready. Lucian looked toward the opposite road. Ravenspire. The Compact. A dozen unfinished projects. 3 kingdoms waiting for negotiations. A life with no covenant telling him what he had to protect. No crown telling him who he had to serve. No marriage requiring him to make himself smaller so someone else could shine. Yes. He stepped into his carriage. As Silverfall disappeared behind him, Lucian looked at his unmarked wrist. Once, sovereign insight had made him legendary. At least that was what everyone believed. Cashin had believed it. Serafina had believed it. Lucian himself had believed it for a while. But the truth was simpler. Power had shown him weaknesses. Pain had taught him endurance. Loss had taught him boundaries. And freedom had taught him who he was without any of them. The carriage turned toward the mountains. Morning sunlight flooded the road. Lucian closed his eyes. No voices. No calculations. No chains. Just silence. Beautiful, ordinary silence. And somewhere in another carriage heading toward Aurelia, Serafina remembered the thought she had heard 1 year earlier while her husband knelt beneath the transference seal. At the time, she had believed it was the beginning of her victory. Now she finally understood. It had been the beginning of his life. Finally, after 7 years. I'm free.